The intergalactic academy loomed like a shard of crystal suspended in the void, its vast spires shimmering with the cold light of a distant star. Within its corridors, species from across the galaxy mingled, each radiating its own form of intelligence and menace. For most, the academy was a place of honor and ambition. For humans, it was uncharted territory, a proving ground where the subtle ingenuity of their kind would be weighed against the towering intellect of others. Captain Elias Ward moved with careful observation, his dark eyes scanning the assembly hall as he followed the throng of cadets toward the central chamber. He had never felt entirely comfortable among aliens. Not because of fear, but because of the silent, unspoken comparisons, the way their multi-limbed forms twisted and adjusted to the environment within human grace, the way their compound eyes seemed to analyze every motion before it occurred. Still, Elias had learned long ago that observation was a weapon and patience a shield. His human instincts, imperfect, occasionally impulsive but flexible, had carried him through more than one tight situation back on Earth. Here in the academy, they might just give him an edge no alien could anticipate. At the front of the chamber stood Professor Kthar, a figure of living geometry, limbs arrayed at angles that defied conventional anatomy, skin patterned with iridescent stripes that shifted as he moved, and eyes, 3 on each side, that seemed to pierce reality itself. He was revered across systems, known as a teacher of riddles so complex they were considered unanswerable by any known species. Today, the infamous riddle was not merely an intellectual exercise, it was a test designed to measure instinct, creativity, and the capacity for lateral thought. Lieutenant Gorvok, a hulking Orsish cadet with tusks curving past his jawline and a boulder-like torso, snorted as he observed Elias. "Humans, he said in a guttural tone that rattled the floor. "They claim ingenuity, but they can't even digest half the calculations we perform before breakfast. This is going to be amusing." Elias ignored the remark, letting the noise of alien chatter wash over him. There was an energy here, a quiet tension interlaced with curiosity, that humans rarely encountered outside their own world. Every species had its pride, every species its limitations, and today, the invisible measure of human potential was being set against a challenge that had confounded the galaxy for centuries. The chamber grew still as Kthar unfurled the riddle in a holographic projection, a sequence of glowing symbols, shifting shapes, and colors that seemed almost alive. Each alien cadet leaned forward instinctively, scanning, calculating, projecting thought patterns that could manipulate the sequence itself. Many tried to rearrange the shapes mentally, some using telepathic aids to probe possibilities, while others employed brute computational techniques. Minutes passed, then hours, yet the riddle remained unyielding, an unbroken fortress against even the most advanced minds. Elias studied the symbols silently, fingers tapping the side of his leg, mind turning over the shapes as if they were pieces of a puzzle he had solved in a dream. He noticed the subtle inconsistencies, small patterns overlooked by others, anomalies in symmetry that hinted at an underlying principle different from conventional logic. His approach was not one of force or memory, but of perspective. While aliens attempted to dominate the riddle, he sought to understand it, to see it as a human might, fluid, flexible, unbound by centuries of training or expectation. Around him, alien cadets began to murmur, their efforts failing to produce even a hint of solution. Gorvok's tusks ground together as frustration boiled beneath his rough exterior. "This is nonsense," he muttered, though his tone carried the faintest hint of apprehension. Even the bravest among them could sense that the human observer was different, not because he had yet spoken, but because he did not seem constrained by the rules that had ensnared everyone else. Kthar's multiple eyes scanned the assembly, landing finally on Elias. "You there," he said, voice resonating with harmonic overtones, "step forward. Observe closely. Tell me, do you understand the riddle, human?" Elias rose, moving deliberately to the center of the chamber. Every movement was measured, every step a statement of confidence, though his heart beat faster than he would admit. The room's weight pressed down as thousands of eyes, compound, multifaceted, singular, focused on him. He drew a deep breath, letting the logic of human intuition rise to the surface. "I see it," he said, voice steady but carrying the unmistakable clarity of insight. "It's not about arranging the symbols in a perfect sequence or solving it through brute logic. It's about the perspective you apply, the assumptions you carry, and the ones you discard. The solution lies in understanding what isn't explicitly presented." A ripple of disbelief passed through the chamber. Alien cadets whispered in a dozen different tongues, some vocalizing their shock, others exchanging silent, complex gestures of incomprehension. Gorvok's eyes narrowed, ears twitching. "This human, he actually understands it?" Professor Kthar tilted his head, the shifting colors on his skin signaling both curiosity and incredulity. "Interesting," he murmured, stepping closer to inspect Elias's reasoning. "So, you claim to see the path that all others miss. I wonder if your species possesses the capacity to follow through. The riddle has been unsolved for centuries. Most would fail at the first step, blinded by their own intellect. Can a human truly succeed?" Elias met the gaze of the alien teacher without hesitation. He did not know whether his answer would be correct, or if the judgment of centuries would fall upon him like a hammer. But he knew that humans had a unique ability, an instinctive flexibility that allowed them to see connections invisible to even the most disciplined alien mind. And in that instant, he understood that this was more than a riddle. It was a measure of potential, a test of humanity itself. The chamber held its breath. The riddle remained unsolved by thousands, but now, for the first time in history, a human was poised to speak the answer, instantly, confidently, and without doubt. And in that charged silence, the stage was set for a confrontation of intellects that would challenge the assumptions of the galaxy. Elias stood in the center of the chamber, his eyes fixed on the shifting holographic riddle. Around him, hundreds of alien cadets leaned forward, their forms tense, limbs poised, and eyes, some compound, some multifaceted, some singular, straining to detect a flaw in his approach. Professor Kthar regarded him with an intensity that made the air feel heavier, as if the room itself waited for confirmation that the impossible could, indeed, be solved by a human. Taking a steadying breath, Elias spoke. "The solution is not in manipulating the symbols directly. It is in recognizing the assumptions embedded in the riddle and questioning them. If we strip away the constraints the designer imposed, those invisible rules every other species accepts without question, the answer becomes clear." Silence gripped the chamber. Whispers erupted among the alien cadets, a ripple of incredulity that stretched across species. Some attempted to reconstruct his reasoning with their vast computational minds, while others muttered telepathically to each other, but none could bridge the conceptual gap. Gorvok's tusks clicked together sharply as frustration and astonishment warred across his features. "Impossible," he growled, low and threatening. "A human, he sees what centuries of training could not." Kthar's many eyes narrowed, and a faint vibration hummed through the air as he activated a mental probe, seeking to trace Elias's thought process. "Explain," he said, voice resonating with layers of harmonic undertones. "Show me your reasoning, human, or this will be dismissed as coincidence." Elias nodded, moving closer to the projection. He gestured toward the symbols, pointing to the subtle shifts in pattern that most had ignored. "Observe here," he said. "The sequence appears regular, but there is a deliberate asymmetry, an element that contradicts conventional logic. Every other cadet has tried to force order, relying on memory, telepathy, or brute calculation. But the riddle is designed to be deceiving. Its solution requires questioning the need for order itself. It is a matter of perspective, not force." Kthar leaned forward, his multiple limbs adjusting in synchronous precision as he absorbed the human's words. Slowly, he traced the holographic projection with his elongated digits, as though testing Elias's claim through his own centuries-honed intellect. Around them, alien cadets grew restless. Some began to murmur dissent, unwilling to accept that a species so new, so unproven, could produce a solution they could not even comprehend. Others stared with wide-eyed fascination, their forms trembling slightly with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Gorvok's growl deepened. He stepped forward, his massive frame dwarfing Elias, yet his voice carried no intimidation, only a raw mix of anger and admiration. You speak as though you understand it, human, but comprehension is one thing. Execution is another. Show us. Prove it beyond your words. Elias met Gorvok's glare steadily. He did not flinch. Watch closely, he said, and with a few deliberate manipulations of the symbols, rotating, ignoring, and reinterpreting their meaning, he revealed the hidden pattern. The holographic sequence shifted, colors aligning and shapes locking into a configuration that had eluded every other cadet. Gasps and clicks of disbelief erupted across the room. Some alien minds attempted to mimic the human's approach, only to fail as their rigid assumptions fractured their reasoning. Kthar's skin rippled with iridescent waves, signaling both astonishment and measured curiosity. Remarkable, he murmured. You have bypassed not only the riddle's design, but the very mental frameworks that have entrapped countless species. A human, truly, it is unprecedented. Even Gorvok's expression softened, though he maintained his defensive posture. By the gods. He didn't brute force it. He thought outside the constraints we all blindly follow. That is clever, infuriatingly clever. Elias straightened, sensing the mixture of awe and hostility around him. I did not solve it because I am human, he said quietly but with unwavering confidence. I solved it because I approached it differently. Perspective, creativity, and observation. Those are tools any species could wield, yet humans have been honed to rely on them instinctively. We improvise, we adapt, and we question. This riddle is a test not of intelligence alone, but of flexibility and courage. The chamber was electric with tension. Cadets from alien species that had considered themselves superior for centuries now questioned everything they thought they knew about intelligence. Some whispered nervously about the implications of human cognition, while others openly debated whether their own pride had blinded them. Kthar's gaze swept over the assembly, lingering on Elias. The riddle was not merely an exercise, he said, voice echoing like chimes in a vast hall. It is a measure of latent potential, the ability to navigate uncertainty, to see what others cannot. You have passed the first threshold, human. Yet the true challenge lies ahead. Intelligence alone is insufficient. Ingenuity must be tested in ways that demand risk, collaboration, and instinct. Are you prepared to proceed? Elias's lips curved into a faint, confident smile. I am, he said. And I will prove that humanity is capable of more than even the most learned minds of the galaxy can anticipate. The chamber's energy shifted from disbelief to cautious respect. Kthar inclined his head, acknowledging the human cadet with a mixture of admiration and wariness. Gorvok stepped back, tusks still clenched, yet there was a glimmer of grudging respect in his eyes. Around them, alien cadets muttered, some in disbelief, others with a hint of anticipation, aware that what had just occurred was unprecedented, and that the human before them might very well reshape their understanding of intelligence and potential. The first barrier had been crossed. Elias had not only answered the unanswerable, but he had exposed a truth no species had considered. Perspective could be as powerful as knowledge, and creativity as lethal as computation. The galaxy, it seemed, had underestimated humanity. And in that charged silence, the stage was set for trials far greater than a riddle, a proving ground where survival, cunning, and adaptability would be weighed against centuries of alien expertise. The metallic doors of the training arena slid open with a resonant hum, revealing a vast chamber that stretched farther than the eye could perceive. Holographic projections flickered across the walls, simulating alien landscapes riddled with hazards, jagged cliffs that defied gravity, chasms that shimmered with artificial energy, and sprawling networks of traps designed to test reflexes, strategy, and mental acuity. Elias stepped inside, his senses heightened. Every instinct he had honed as a human cadet sharpened, warning him that this was more than a test of intelligence. It was a trial of survival under pressure. Lieutenant Gorvok followed, massive shoulders brushing against the walls, his tusks gleaming faintly under the holographic light. Behind them, alien cadets from species known for their warcraft and cunning spread into the arena, already assessing the environment with calculated precision. Ktharas' voice echoed through the chamber, smooth and resonant. This trial will measure your ability to adapt, to innovate, and to collaborate under circumstances no species can fully anticipate. The objective is simple: reach the core and retrieve the central data node. The challenge is anything but simple. Elias glanced at his fellow humans. They were fewer in number, smaller, physically weaker, but they carried in their eyes the same spark that had solved the riddle earlier: ingenuity. He caught Gorvok's gaze, noting the tension there, a mixture of skepticism, pride, and grudging curiosity. "We do this together," Elias said quietly, though not as a command. More as a statement. Watch, adapt, improvise. The simulation began with a sudden jolt of the floor, and energy barriers materialized, splitting the arena into chaotic segments. Alien cadets immediately employed their trained reflexes. Some attempted to brute force through obstacles, others calculated exact trajectories to bypass traps, while still others tried telepathic projection to map the hazards before them. Their approach was precise, predictable, yet rigid. Elias, in contrast, paused briefly, scanning for details others had overlooked. He noticed the patterns of the shifting energy fields, slight delays in timing, recurring micro-gaps in the projected walls, and inconsistencies in the simulated terrain. Rather than rushing forward, he directed his team through improvisation. Using discarded debris as temporary bridges, exploiting timing quirks in the barriers, and even baiting certain traps to reset harmlessly, he created a path no cadet had envisioned. Gorvok grunted in astonishment, following Elias's lead despite his pride. "By the gods, human, you see it differently. This isn't training. This is art." The arena's challenges intensified. Holographic creatures with advanced AI lunged unpredictably, forcing rapid reactions. Cadets who relied on brute strength or telepathy found themselves ensnared, overextended, or trapped in virtual pits. Elias moved fluidly, anticipating the behavior of both the environment and the creatures, his improvisation turning potential danger into advantage. The humans, smaller and physically weaker, relied on ingenuity over force, employing simple machines, environmental manipulation, and coordinated distractions to survive. At one critical moment, a wide energy chasm opened ahead, too broad for any cadet to leap. Aliens hesitated, scanning for a pre-programmed solution. Elias glanced at a broken support beam nearby, nodding to his human teammate who lifted it in place to create a makeshift bridge. The group crossed, the aliens behind staring in disbelief as the humans achieved what brute force or intellect alone could not. Halfway through the simulation, Gorvok, usually impatient and brash, spoke, voice tinged with respect. "I've fought on countless battlefields across the galaxy. I've never seen such adaptability. You rely not on what you are, but on what you perceive. That is dangerous." Elias smiled faintly. "That's the point. Danger is a test, not an obstacle. Survival isn't just strength, it's flexibility. Humans excel at seeing opportunities that others overlook." By the time they neared the central node, alien cadets were fatigued, some muttering complaints, others quietly calculating ways to understand the humans' methods. Elias observed the final barrier, a matrix of shifting energy walls moving at irregular intervals. Rather than trying to brute force a path or wait for a predictable pattern, he instructed his team to move in synchrony with the gaps, exploiting micro-moments where the barrier shifted unpredictably. The humans moved as one, coordinated but improvising, and crossed unscathed. Gorvok's eyes widened as he realized the humans had achieved what no alien team could replicate on their first attempt. "By the gods, they've done it. I can't believe it," he muttered, awe breaking through his usual brashness. Elias approached the central node, placing his hand upon it. The holographic projection stabilized, signaling completion. Around the chamber, alien cadets fell silent, absorbing the implications. Kthar's voice reverberated through the arena, measured and deliberate. Remarkable. Your species has demonstrated an aptitude that transcends the limitations we assumed. Intelligence alone is insufficient. Ingenuity under pressure defines true capability. Humans, you have shown flexibility and innovation that even the most disciplined species often cannot achieve. The human cadets exchanged glances, a mix of triumph and relief. They had not only survived but had excelled where strength, training, and raw computation failed. Gorvok, still towering beside them, exhaled slowly, his respect evident despite the remnants of pride in his stance. I underestimated you, he admitted grudgingly. Perhaps humans are not what I expected. Elias surveyed the arena, aware that the trial was a glimpse of far greater challenges yet to come. The humans had proven themselves, but the galaxy was vast, and the complexity of interstellar threats far exceeded even the most advanced simulations. Yet, for the first time, the aliens were forced to acknowledge that human ingenuity could rival centuries of evolution and specialized training. Kthar's multiple eyes fixed on Elias, his voice a calm resonance of contemplation. You have passed this trial, human, yet consider this a prelude. Adaptation, creativity, and courage are merely the first measures. The galaxy awaits those who can combine them with resilience and foresight. The true tests lie beyond what we can simulate. Elias nodded, feeling both the weight and the exhilaration of accomplishment. Then let the galaxy come, he said quietly. We are ready. The chamber's hum softened as the holographic environment dissipated. Alien cadets murmured in astonishment, some skeptical, some contemplative, others openly impressed. For the humans, this was not an endpoint but a revelation. Their adaptability, ingenuity, and instinctive problem-solving were their greatest strengths, and they had just made the galaxy take notice. And in the quiet aftermath, Elias understood that one trial had proven a point, yet countless others awaited, each more demanding than the last, each a measure of humanity's place among the stars. The arena doors closed behind them with a resonant thud, leaving Elias and his team standing amid the dissipating holographic debris of the trial. The air was heavy with the unspoken acknowledgement of achievement. For centuries, alien cadets had assumed superiority, yet today, human ingenuity had defied expectation. The echoes of the trial lingered, a silent testament to adaptability and instinct over brute calculation. Professor Kthar stepped forward, his multiple limbs moving in deliberate, elegant synchronization. The colors across his skin pulsed rhythmically, signaling both approval and contemplation. You have surpassed what I anticipated, he said, his voice layered with harmonic undertones that reverberated in the chamber. Not only have you solved the riddle instantly, but you have also demonstrated a capacity for innovation under conditions designed to overwhelm any species. Humanity, it seems the galaxy has underestimated you. Elias inclined his head, maintaining composure despite the quiet thrill that surged through him. We do what we must, he said. Observation, improvisation, and adaptability, these are not lessons we need to learn in the academy. They are inherent, forged by circumstance. Gorvok, still towering and formidable, let out a low rumble of approval, his tusks gleaming. I misjudged you, human, he admitted. Your kind does not rely on raw strength or ancient knowledge alone. You see the world differently, unpredictably. It is dangerous, yet admirable. Several alien cadets whispered among themselves, their voices laced with awe and apprehension. A few openly challenged the acknowledgement, suggesting humans were an anomaly, perhaps a fluke in evolutionary design. Others, however, studied Elias and his companions with keen interest, curious how such small, unassuming beings could achieve feats that had humbled entire species for centuries. Kthar extended a limb toward the human cadets. You are hereby granted honorary status within the Academy, a recognition of intellect and ingenuity previously thought unattainable by your species. Yet understand this. Recognition is not the end. The trials you have passed are merely a prelude. The galaxy will present challenges that require courage beyond intellect, resilience beyond adaptability, and alliances beyond convenience. Elias felt the weight of those words. Honorary status was more than ceremonial. It was an acknowledgement that humanity was now visible in the eyes of the galaxy, not as novices or curiosities, but as a species capable of shaping events, influencing outcomes, and challenging assumptions that had stood for centuries. He glanced at Gorvok, who still maintained a wary but respectful distance. "I see now that your defiance is as much a strength as it is a flaw," Elias said. "You question, you push, but you also learn. That is how any species survives." Gorvok grunted, the sound more contemplative than dismissive. "Perhaps your methods are worth watching. I do not fully trust them, human. Yet I cannot deny their effectiveness." Around them, the other cadets adjusted their perceptions. For some, humans had become a benchmark, a new measure against which their abilities would be compared. For others, doubt and curiosity mingled, stirring questions about power, unpredictability, and the untapped potential of a species they had long considered primitive. Elias's gaze shifted outward, toward the expanse of the station beyond the chamber. Through the vast windows, stars and planets stretched infinitely, each a potential frontier, each a test of humanity's ingenuity. The Academy had shown them a fraction of the galaxy's challenges, but it was clear that recognition here was only the first step. Real trials awaited in the uncharted reaches, where unpredictability, danger, and complexity would test the limits of their abilities. Kthares' voice interrupted his thoughts. "Elias Ward, you have proven the principle I sought to measure. That intellect without creativity is incomplete, that knowledge without adaptability is vulnerable. But the galaxy is vast, and the trials that await are far more intricate than a riddle or a simulation. Prepare yourselves, for the future will demand more than any of you have yet imagined." Elias squared his shoulders, a sense of determination settling over him. "We will meet those challenges," he said. "Humanity will not falter, and we will continue to learn, adapt, and prevail. This is only the beginning." Gorvok gave a short, sharp nod, a sign of reluctant respect that carried unspoken approval. Even in his skepticism, he acknowledged that humans had demonstrated qualities that could not be dismissed: resourcefulness, foresight, and a unique capacity to thrive under pressure. As the cadets exited the arena, murmurs followed them. Alien and human alike sensed that a new dynamic had entered the Academy, one where humans could no longer be underestimated, where ingenuity and adaptability could challenge centuries of established authority. Elias led his companions through the corridors, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence. The first test was complete, but the trials of the galaxy awaited, each one a step into unknown challenges, each one an opportunity to prove the value of human perspective. Before they disappeared into the vastness of the station, Elias paused at a window, looking out at the stars. He knew the Academy had revealed their potential, but the galaxy was unbound, wild, and unpredictable. One riddle and one trial had proven their worth, but the universe held countless more tests, waiting for those bold enough to confront them. He turned to his team, eyes shining with purpose. "The galaxy underestimates us," he said. "That's our advantage. Let's make sure we use it." And with that, the first chapter of humanity's interstellar journey closed, not with finality, but with promise, anticipation, and the undeniable proof that humans, small and unassuming though they might be, had a role to play in the vast tapestry of the stars.